record to this computer. All right, we're recording. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mazi Mutafa, Executive Director of Words, Beats, and Life, a hip hop nonprofit here based in Washington, D.C. That was founded back in 2002. This is the info session for the Academy, our longest running program that began probably 18 years ago now. We existed for 2 years before we actually began to do programming because we wanted to do research about what kind of things people were doing around the country and around the city that we could learn from or improve on. So thank you so much for attending. I'm going to read the slides just because we have the slides mostly for people who learn differently. Some people learn by hearing, some people learn by seeing, some people learn by doing. So welcome and thank you for joining me this afternoon for this Academy orientation. Before we begin, are there any specific questions that you have that you want to make sure I answer during the orientation? If you want, you can drop those into the chat just so I have a record of them. On my last orientation at the very end, I got like 50 questions from one person because they had questions the whole time. So feel free to drop pre-questions into the chat and I'll be sure to answer those. This should take about 30 minutes. And at any point, feel free to interrupt me if you need more clarity on something that I'm talking about. And you can do that either by turning on your screen or raising your hand as one of the functions of Zoom. All right. So about Words, Beats, and Life. The mission of Words, Beats, and Life is to transform individual lives and communities through hip hop culture in all its forms. For us, that means emceeing or rapping, DJing, graffiti, street art, spoken word, poetry, dance, which for us is hip hop dance or breaking, beat production, and knowledge of self. WBL began as a 5-day student-led hip hop conference at the University of Maryland in 2001. In 2002, it was founded as a nonprofit organization to begin providing free out-of-school time educational programming for youth through what is now known as the WBL Academy. In the nearly 20 years since that first conference, WBL has grown into a multifaceted arts organization working with local, national, and international artists and educators to serve children, youth, and families and communities. The goals of the Academy and the things that we measure are attitude and behavior changes over time, academic proficiency, skill set mastery, community, self-mastery, employability, and the pursuit of a post-secondary education. So when we say we're measuring attitudes and behavior, we just want to see, one of the things we actually ask parents to do is write letters to us at the end of each session to talk about changes they've seen in their child. Or if the person is a young adult, asking about changes they've seen in themselves over the course of the time of being with us. Academic proficiency, we just want to know if grades are getting better or staying the same or getting worse. Not necessarily because we provide academic support, but just because we want to know whether or not participation in our classes is having a positive impact. And over the years, we've seen that even though we don't provide academic support, that students, when they have greater self-esteem and see themselves as kind of pursuing something they're really interested in, it actually spills over into their daily school activity. Skill set mastery just means that the things that we're teaching, that you're learning them. So if you're interested in DJing or graffiti, we have specific methods and history that we're teaching, and we want to know that you're actually grasping and developing those things. Community means that we bring in other artists. We want every student that graduates from our program to have a community of artists that they're able to tap into. So if you're a DJ, your DJ instructor is going to be inviting guest instructors throughout the session. And ideally, that person or those people become folks that are part of your network. That's really important to us because when you join the Academy, it's not just about taking a class, it's about becoming a part of a larger community. And we see parents as part of that community. So one of the things you'll find in the enrollment applications, we ask parents if they're willing to let us add them to a mailing list, an email list, so we can develop a parent newsletter so that you all know what's going on regularly, not just with your own child, but with the larger community of young people that are participating. Self-mastery is a combination of two ideas. For those of you that are familiar with, there's a school of thought called youth development. One of the principles of youth development or outcomes is mastery and future. We combined that concept with knowledge of self, which is the fifth element of hip hop, which really is just the knowledge part of hip hop, not the artistic part, but understanding who you are and what you and your ancestors have contributed to the whole of human history. So we combine those two ideas because we believe that if you're a young person that does all of these particular goals, you become the driving force behind what's possible for your life. You're the master of your own self and of your own future. Employability is critical to us because one of the things that we believe is that every young person who pursues a creative endeavor should know how to make money using that creative endeavor. That doesn't mean that we encourage young people to do things like drop out of school um, or to become a full-time artist necessarily immediately. But what it does mean is that once you get to the intermediate or advanced level of our apprentice program, we actually hire you. In most instances, we're the first employer for almost all of our student artists. And we want to set a foundation for what they should expect in terms of compensation from other people for their skills. So learning about contracts and negotiation, building portfolios, et cetera. And then the last outcome is the pursuit of a post-secondary education. Because we come out of a university environment, the fact that we were founded at a college as a conference, and then all of our founders were alumni of the University of Maryland, we have a bias towards the pursuit of a post-secondary education. But we also understand that college, at least there's a growing position that college isn't for everyone, but a plan post high school is. So if that plan is to go into work, we want to help you with that plan. If that plan is to go to trade school, we want to help you with that plan. If that plan is to go to community college to get an associate's degree, we want to help you with that plan. Because ultimately, what we want is for every young person who we come into contact with to get the kinds of support that unfortunately lots of young people don't get in their schools. We've seen documentaries about things like the access to guidance counselors that folks have in some suburban communities as opposed to cities. Like there's actually a documentary that inspired us to create a program called College Material. And it was inspired because in the documentary we saw, it said at the time, which was probably about 10 years ago, on average, DC public school students had a guidance counselor ratio to student ratio of 1 to 200. So for every 200 students, there was one guidance counselor. And at the same time, when they looked at some of the suburban school districts in Virginia and Maryland, the ratio was much lower, closer to like 50 to 1. And so we're trying to play a support role that in some instances, young people don't have in their schools for post-high school planning. All right. So the classes that we offer on Tuesdays through Thursdays from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. are as follows. We offer classes in emceeing/rap, breaking, which is, for most people know it as break dancing, but if you ever meet a person that's a breaker, they don't like to have it called break dancing. They call it breaking. So we have a breaking 101 and a breaking 202, which just means an introductory class and a more intermediate class. Hip hop dance, spoken word poetry, and hip hop theater. Our plan is to do hip hop theater this summer, but it's listed here as one of the performing arts classes. For music, we offer DJing classes, beat production classes, and the business of music or music business classes. Finally, visual art classes, where we offer classes in graffiti, street art, fine art, calligraphy, photography, filmmaking. We have an initiative called Roses, Concrete, and Poetry. It's a street art class where young people take flowers and make temporary art installations to be installed in the neighborhood surrounding the property where our office is. And then arts and activism. All of these classes will be offered. The only thing listed here that will not be offered this session is hip hop theater. Welcome to those of you who've just joined us. We also this year are offering 2 sets of arts management classes. We talk about our outcomes that we're working towards as a whole organization, as arts education, creative employment, cultural diplomacy, centering marginalized voices, and for the culture. So the creative employment is one of our outcomes. And about 6 years ago, we developed what was then the beginnings of a curriculum called Like a Boss. And over the last 6 years, it's developed from what was originally an alternative spring break, where we took young people to meet the leaders and the managers in government, university, nonprofit, and for-profit entities that work in creative spaces in DC, Baltimore, Arlington, Virginia, Philadelphia, and New York. And for 2 years, we did that. And then it grew into a summer youth employment program where we worked with a set of DC youth around curriculum in these particular subject areas. And every Friday, they would actually host an event. So it wasn't just, and it won't just be learning in the abstract, but learning to be able to apply what it is that you're learning. So if you're a young person that might not necessarily be a great artist, but really loves the idea of being a part of the creative community, I myself am not a rapper or a DJ or a graffiti writer. The closest thing to being a creative I am is a creative writer and a poet, but I am an arts manager. And so I've built my career around this idea of management in arts. And so I say that to all of you just to say, you might come into this being like, I want to be a professional DJ, but you might discover you love DJing, but you actually are a more strategic thinker and you want to run an organization, not necessarily be the artist that works in it. So we want to actually engage you around that. So Like a Boss is going to be every Saturday from 12 noon to 1. The second curriculum is actually called Walk It Like I Talk It. Many of you signed up for these things without necessarily knowing what they are. Walk It Like I Talk It is a brand new curriculum we got funding for from the DC Humanities Council, specifically to teach young people how to create walking tours of murals. That's a thing that we've done as an organization for the last 10 years. And it occurred to me that it could actually be really valuable for young people to learn about how to do research on neighborhoods, how to craft narratives about particular communities that are tied to public art. And so this is a curriculum we're going to offer on Sundays from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. That's the current plan. To be totally transparent, if there were a number of you who are like, I want to participate, but I can't do it at that time because I have to go to church or I have whatever your obligation is, I'm open to changing the time. But right now it's scheduled from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And it'll include podcasting, it'll include research, it'll include participating in some walking tours of neighborhoods in Washington, DC, with the goal of each of you being able to develop your own walking tours that you could, depending on your age, begin to host on your own, so that we want to teach you how to do it so you can do it for yourself. One of the big questions that people have asked is, what about supplies and equipment, Mazi, since this is a virtual program? Again, I'll be transparent. This is the first time that we're doing our program virtually. We've done virtual classes, but not that required enrollment or that required students to participate consistently. So right now our plan is to see if students attend consistently for the first month, which will be February. And then at the end of that month, be in a position to provide supplies and equipment to you. So parents, you would need to make some minimal investments in that first month. We've already talked to the teachers about trying to keep the first month as light on specialty supplies as possible, so that you don't have to spend money. This is a free program and we want to keep it as free as possible. So after a month of consistent attendance, we plan to provide supplies and equipment that is to be returned at the end of classes. Classes will run, this is actually out of date, will run from February the 1st until May the 2nd. Based on which classes students enroll in, we'll provide a supplies list for the first month, so parents can make an initial investment. That would be things like markers if you're in a graffiti class, or scissors, or things like that. We're going to do our very best to keep it as inexpensive as possible, and ideally allow them to use things you already have around the house. So our expectations for students, and I have you all minimized, so I haven't seen anything pop up that says that you all have questions. So expectations for students: have a sincere interest in a class offered by the Academy. Display significant social and or academic promise. Display a sincere interest in being affiliated with Words, Beats, and Life. Have the capacity for significant personal and professional growth through the resources offered by WBL. All of that is just, do I really want to be here? Or did my mom sign me up? Or did my uncle sign me up? To be transparent with all the parents, we don't want to babysit your children or to have them engaged in something that they're not really interested in, because we don't actually have the capacity to do the kind of behavior management that happens in a school. This is a place where people who are looking for a community and want to be a part of it and want to grow as a person. So that's what all those things mean. Like, do you as a young person, do you see yourself developing in a community? Do you see being a part of Words, Beats, and Life as something that could be valuable to you? All right. Complete the enrollment application with your parent or guardian. There are a bunch of questions on the application that are specifically for parents, and parents, or there are, and for young adults who might be also tuning in, there are specific questions that are just for you. So if you're over 18, you're filling out everything. If you're under 18, you're filling this out with your parent. And parents, please allow your child to be honest on the questions that we ask of them. Um, we use the application to assess baseline, like where were you when we met you? And then ideally by the end of the session, where did you end up? Participate in regular evaluation. That just means that we'll have evaluation process for students who participate in classes. Work with WBL staff to build a portfolio. If you don't know what a portfolio is, it's just like if you own a computer, you can just think about it as a fancy way of describing a folder on your desktop that has all of your best art in it. That'll also include things like the beginnings of a resume or an artistic statement, depending how old you are. If you're 13 years old and you've never had a job before, you can create a resume. It'll be very simple. Submission of a photo and a short bio. If you visit, there's a section on our website. If you all visit wblinc.org, in the About Us section, there's a section of the website called The Squad. That's all of the people that are currently affiliated with WBL. Our teaching artists, our board of directors, our executive staff. We plan to add all of our students to that section as well, because once you enroll in the academy, you're part of our community and we value you and want to lift you up as part of our squad. If you don't have a bio is just a couple of sentences about yourself, and it could be really simple. Who you are, where you live, and what forms of art you're working on practicing with us. Over time, that's going to develop. Commit to regularly attending classes and meetings. The meetings will be activities that happen between classes. So I know some of you have indicated you're only interested in one class or two classes. Some of you have indicated that you're interested in every single class. Unfortunately, you won't be able to take everything because classes are happening at the same time. So you'll have to choose which classes you're actually most interested in over the course of the next few months. Complete assignments. Because most classes are going to be offered one day a week, we're going to try to give you very simple homework assignments, things that happen over the course of the 7 days before we see you again, that we want to be able to add to your portfolio. Participate in special events. At the end of this session, we're going to be working to do a virtual performance where students showcase their work. And that's when we'll be doing an induction ceremony for new apprentices. That is young people who've agreed to commit the time to build their skills over time. And then demonstrate leadership qualities. I would ask if the young people on the call to tell me what you think that means, but I know we've got our cameras off. But think of maybe parents, ask your child, or if you're a young adult, ask yourself, what do you think in this environment it means to demonstrate leadership qualities? Parents, we got some expectations for you too. Ideally, we want every one of you to submit a letter at the end of the term, i.e. May the 2nd, that tells us what kind of changes you've witnessed in your child. Whether that is they're more committed to their form of art, or they're talking to you about asking for you to make investments in equipment that are gonna help them to develop their skills, whatever the changes are. Ideally, they're positive, but if there's negative changes, we wanna know about those too. Consider applying for one of the 2 parent seats we maintain on our board of directors. Right now, we have 1 parent on our board. who occupies one of the two seats. And if you're interested, we can talk about that in time. No need to worry about that. But the board of directors are basically my boss. They're the people I report to be accountable for delivering our programming and making sure that we're meeting our objectives. Sign a photo waiver that allows us to take screenshots or photos of your child in class that we can use for marketing and recruiting purposes. This is actually a part of the application process. There's a section where you sign your name. If you receive equipment supplies from us for your child or for yourself if you're a young adult, to sign a contract that ensures we will receive our equipment supplies in roughly the same condition you receive them in. You also agree to pick them up and return the equipment and supplies to our headquarters, which is at the St. Stephen's Church in Northwest Washington, D.C. This is critical because just like, in school where you have a textbook that is yours and then you return it, we think about the equipment the same way. We've never done this before. We've never loaned equipment to families. And so we want the parents and the young people to be crystal clear. Your parent is responsible for your equipment. So you should treat it like it's going to come back to us because it is. And that if you break it, destroy it, damage it, you're literally taking supplies away from future students. So please understand that your parents are responsible for what it is that we would give them. If you opt to allow your child to participate in limited in-person programming, you will provide them with the appropriate PPE and encourage them to adhere to appropriate social distancing guidelines and be appropriately dressed to be outside. We also ask that if you are picking up your child from our program, that you arrive 30 minutes before the program ends. Our plan is for this to be probably 90% virtual and to have in-person opportunities. The opportunities will depend on if you as a parent say, yes, I want my child to participate, or you as a young adult say, yes, I want to participate in limited in-person, and that the teacher feels comfortable doing limited in-person. So who qualifies for limited in-person? We have a DJ studio at our space. Our plan is to have no more than 3 students plus 1 teacher at a time. And those would be special classes on like a Saturday or a Sunday, depending on the teacher's schedule. We also have a 90-foot long 2-sided wall outside of our space for graffiti students to be able to show up in small numbers to produce work socially distanced outside. And again, the numbers will still remain small, between 3 and 5 students. Next steps. Please share this opportunity with other parents and peers. All of you signed up for the orientation through wblinc.org/jump-in. We currently have 11 spaces still available. And our goal is to get those 11 students recruited, ideally by the middle of January, so within the next 2 weeks. And then the application process will close. We'll send you a full application, actually as of today. At the very bottom, it says access the application by visiting wblinc.org/enroll. That's a redirect link, so it's going to send you to a SurveyMonkey, which is the platform we use to collect data. Just go there, fill it out. It takes about 30 minutes to complete the application. So that's also why we're doing the orientation. We want you to know, we really want to know that you're committed to your child or to yourself being enrolled in the program, because this orientation takes about 30 minutes. The application takes about 30 minutes. So you're committing an hour of your time just to join. Everyone that fills out a form, assuming they fall within the age range, which is 13 to 22, is automatically enrolled. So once you fill out the form, you don't have to wait for us to tell you that you're enrolled. Know that you're enrolled. If you're over the age of 22, feel free to send me an email, because there are specific opportunities like a boss or walk it like I talk it. And there's a poetry program we run called Aged Out, which is specifically for older youth, people 18 to 25. If you're interested in any of those things, you can be older than our normal academy age range. That is my last slide. So let me go ahead and hit stop.